I have the honor of introducing, please, Mike, we're going to bring you a microphone. You've got it. Okay, perfect. I have the honor of introducing to you the minister of Madison Avenue Baptist Church before me, Reverend Mike Easterling. He was the pastor here for 20, I'm going to say 25. It felt like 25. 21? 21 point, how many? Okay, he was here for quite a while. And we are very grateful for his ministry and leadership. Mike, I know you would like to say a word to our family and to Jamie, please.
I got a mic here. Yeah. Hi. Good to be back here. This was home for 20 years. 21? I'll tell you one quick story about Susan. Susan was a student minister here. She was a student at Union Seminary. Lois Anderson and I, who was an active member here, we had the job of going up and interviewing students who might be student ministers of the church. We interviewed a lot of kids, and really some good kids. We came back to the church. We sat down and we talked about each one, and then we got to Susan. And here's what Lois said. We would be nuts if we didn't select this woman. It's a true story. But this is about Jamie. Jamie was a kid when I came to this church. 7 years old, sitting out here in church. I remember you sitting in the pew. You'd come with Nancy, and would always look like you were listening. Unlike most kids in church who are so distracted or trying to find something to keep them interested, she would be looking at me. And Jamie, one of the things that you would do is sometimes after the service, as a kid, she would say to me, "I liked your sermon." And you helped in the shelter for the homeless as a kid, and the feeding program for the elderly, and anything we had to do with human ministries. You were there, and it was always touching, and I always really thought you were special. You had some wonderful people behind you. You had your mother behind you. You had Nancy, who was very active in the church, and I work with her on so many things that I forget them. And she was solid as a rock, and she was so behind you, Jamie, in your life, and then and now, of course. Mary Rodriguez was your grandmother, this little lady about as high as my wife is sitting now. I think, well, how tall was she, Nancy?
My height.
What?
4'11", I think.
And she was funny, and she was smart, and she was a woman of faith, and she was so much behind you. I had the opportunity to meet your dad. Your dad wasn't in church much here, but he was working in Alaska, and Jerry and I wanted to meet him up there and see him, and so we arranged for that to happen in Alaska. We had dinner with him, and then he said he'd like to see us again, believe it or not. And so we met with John another time or two when we were up there for a short time, and it was great to get to know him. And Jerry and I were honored. John got very sick here in New Jersey, and we went out to visit one day, and I was honored to be with the family. In that intimate time when John passed on to heaven. I want to say this, Jamie. Your grandmother and your father in heaven now, they're watching over you, and they're with you every day and night, and don't forget that. Those wonderful people. It's no wonder then, isn't it, with people like Nancy's mother, or Jamie's mother, and Nancy, and Mary, and John, it's just no wonder that you came out so good. It's no wonder. We always thought you were special. When I was in this church, I was lucky enough to be minister here, and when I got up in the pulpit like Susan now, I wore this stole for many years. And so I want to give this simple soul to you, Jamie. You might have 2 or 5 already.
I have none.
Well, there's your first one
This
then.
is my very first one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, dear.
Thank
You're
you.
wonderful.